that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts. Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe by MMA aficionado Antoine Peltier.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier. Once again, I have a special guest out of the Tiger Muay Thai family, Mr. Shay Walsh. Shay, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Why don't you break it down? Where are you from? How old are you? And what brought you into martial arts?
I'm 26 years old. I'm from Lancaster in England. And it was my brother that actually got me into mixed martial arts, my older brother. He was training at the time. We're going back 10 years now.
Yep.
And he invited me down. Really enjoyed it straight away, and it's just been a natural progression from there, really.
Excellent. So you started in your mid-teens?
Yeah, 15, 16 I was.
Okay.
It was when I first started.
Were you athletic prior to that?
Not really. I mean, when I was a bit younger, I played some sports, football and everything, but for a few years previous, I hadn't really done much at all. I was 15 but looked about 12 and maybe even younger. I was really skinny and not very athletic.
So, I mean, we're talking Lancaster back 10 years ago. How big was, in general, martial arts and particularly MMA? I mean, there mustn't have been much of a scene.
No, there was not a scene at all. I mean, that was even before the UFC started getting...
Yeah.
And people didn't even know what the UFC was, you know. When there was events on, my brother actually he was buying videotapes over the internet off a website he knew, and we were waiting a week for him to get shipped to England, and then he'd call me up like, the video's arrived, like, because it was just completely different back then. You didn't even the internet thing hadn't blown up as much, so you couldn't even,
of course not.
The results and everything weren't even the same.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how in a very short span of time, it's become quite available to find fights, and especially older fights. I know when I was born in Vancouver, Canada. I stayed there till I was 13. I went to France for 10 years, and then I moved back to Canada in 1999. And I really got back into MMA there. I remember, turning on the TV and seeing The Ultimate Fighter between Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
So that was a big season for them because of those two big names headlining it. And I went about, just trying to buy as many DVDs, etc., as I could find, and even then it wasn't easy to find. They had a DVD box set, and you could find the Pride and stuff like that. But it's so incredible now with outlets like UFC Fight Pass and YouTube to find material to watch at the snap of a finger.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you can just find a fight instantly now. Like I say, we used to have to wait a week. We didn't know what the result was or anything, and.
It's funny though because I'm quite a bit older than you. I'm 39, so there's 13 years between us. But it's interesting to hear that even you had to go through the videotape process. I mean, I'm sure if I could dig into my vault somewhere, I still have those those old VHS tapes. Yeah. They just had shit scribbled on them, and they were put together by somebody. It wasn't even a whole event. It was just his 6 or 7 favorite fights and just gnarly beatdowns. Excellent. Okay, so you get into MMA in your mid-teens. How did you become a pro? How did you get into this?
Well, I was just training for fun at first and like a bit of self-defense in mind or whatever. But I really started enjoying it, and then, like I say, it was just a natural progression really from there. We had a lad at the club that was having an amateur fight, and I was around it while he was training for it and stuff, helping him train for it. And I thought, this looks good. I wouldn't mind having a go at this. So it started, I was doing like submission grappling competitions with the first type of competition they ever did.
Yep.
And then it just progressed from there, just started fighting amateur MMA and doing well, racking the wins up, and just decided I wanted to turn pro. I was progressing all the time and winning the fights, so yeah, it just carried on from there.
Excellent. So then the natural progression from that was to get involved with the bigger camp. And I know you were part of the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts, I believe, the second season that occurred in 2014?
That's right, yeah. So it was just under a year ago I came to Thailand for the first time to do the tryouts.
So I read online you basically came to, you figured out that tryout program existed because you saw them on YouTube. How'd you get the call from Tiger? How'd that connection get made? Because it's sort of like an invitation only type process, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'd seen the previous years on YouTube, and I actually knew a guy from England that had done the trials. And then I had another couple of friends that were at Tiger previously, and they'd heard that they were redoing the trials and they were going to do a second season, etc. So it was, you sent an email basically. That's how it started. You sent an email with your credentials, why you think it'd be a good opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And then I was just waiting to hear back. And to be honest, I didn't hear back for a couple of weeks, and I was thinking, I don't know what's happened. Maybe it's not going to happen. But then, I received an email back with the invitation to come out on the date.
Sounds like it's a pretty competitive environment once those challenges kick in. Why don't you describe that a bit?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a weird environment because everyone was being friendly to each other, but of course, everyone was there to win the scholarships as well.
It's every man for himself at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's right. So. The conversations at first were like, where you from, what's your fight record, and you were trying to suss everyone out really.
Yep.
See how many, who you had the experience over, who was good at what,
Now I spoke with Alex Volkanovski about his experience there. You were the year after him, or was
same year?
You guys were there. Okay, so you're the same curriculum. Okay. What was the most grueling part of that session for you? I heard there was a Buddha run followed by some pretty intense grappling competition.
Yeah, I mean, it was all really tough, but for me it had to be the Muay Thai session was the worst. The trainers must have had a meeting in the morning and decided we were all going to get it. It was, and that's exactly what happened. As soon as the session started, I actually started on the bag when I was quite happy, warming up, getting ready for the session or whatever. And then just in the background, I see people getting kicked off the feet and kneed really hard to the body and stuff. And
so everybody took a beating.
They did, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Now,
including myself.
How'd you feel about that? Did you feel it was unnecessary? Did you feel it was part of the process?
I wasn't too bothered. I mean, a few people, when they saw the videos you saw online, a couple of people were saying, "Oh, that's unnecessary" or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was 26 professional fighters. If you can't take a couple of leg kicks in a training session,
yeah, you're in the wrong place.
Exactly. I mean, of course, to train like that every day would be silly. Yep. But that's not what happens here. That's I knew that was never going to happen. The purpose of that session was a tryout. It was to trial if you were tough and good.
Men from the mice, right?
That's right.
Yeah, crazy. So I've been looking at your record on Sherdog. I believe you're 10-3.
12-3.
12-3,
yeah.
Okay, so Sherdog's a little
Sherdog's right. 12-3, I think.
Is it?
It should be. It was. I'm going to have to make some.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. My bad. Yeah, 12-3, exactly.
12-3. There we go.
So 5 knockouts, 3 submissions, 4 decisions. How would you describe your style?
I mean, obviously, I try and be as well-rounded as possible. Everyone understands now that you've got to have skills in all aspects of the game now, or you're just going to get swallowed up the way that the game's going. But I've had most of my success like wrestling and ground and pound, and just grinding on people. Really. Yeah,
it sounds like from what I've read about you that you have one of the best wrestling backgrounds in your country.
Well, I don't know about that. There's obviously people that have wrestled at a high level on paper, but I've had a lot of success with my MMA wrestling. I probably wouldn't do very well straight wrestling, but when it comes to wrestling for mixed martial arts, that's one of my main skills.
So, how do you feel that's improved since arriving at Tiger?
I mean, yeah, it's improved, definitely. I think all aspects of my game are improving. But it's great to be out here. There's so many strong wrestlers out here. You get a lot of people in and out with wrestling backgrounds, but also there's Roger and George and all the other lads from the tryouts. There's a good, strong wrestling base.
So compared to the training that you're receiving back home, what would you say is the training that you've received here that has the most improved your game?
I think the thing for me out here is I've got really good coaching back home, but I just struggle for training partners. When you come to a place like this, everybody that's here is here to train full time for however long they're going to be in Thailand for. Yeah. Obviously, we've got the fight team that are based out here most of the year, and that's great. But then also even the people that are in and out, they're here to train, and it's just a much higher level of training partners on, and many different styles all the time. So. Yeah,
speaking to people that train out here, it seems like there's a big appreciation for the people that are here year round. that they can consistently train with. But then there's also a real appreciation for the number of sort of intermittent people that come here, that pop in for a couple weeks, couple months, that bring just something totally new, totally fresh to the table, different strengths, different flaws, and that, just help you sharpen up all types of different tools.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's the core team, which we've always got good training between us. But then you're always going to get the odd few people coming in. A guy might come in, a black belt, for example, BJJ black belt here for 4 weeks. Obviously, we all try and get as much training in as we can with him, and then he's going to go back to his home, but he'll be replaced by someone else,
Yeah.
Of a different skill set. So I think it's really good so you're not getting stale training, getting used to everybody's moves all the time. People come in with much different styles, so it's great.
So, looking at your past few fights, I know you had some really great wins, 2 decision wins in your last fight over some top flight featherweight competition. Were those fights in the UK?
That's right, both back in the UK, yeah.
Who were your opponents?
James Seville and Paul Reed, both had a lot of fights, more pro fights than me, and both considered like top 20 in the UK featherweight division. So they were 2 good wins for me.
Have you always fought at this weight class?
Yes.
Okay.
Always fought, yeah.
And you feel that's your home?
Yeah, I feel so, yeah. I mean, some of these guys are getting really big now at this weight category. I think it's crazy to me, sometimes you see, they just seem to get bigger, I don't know. But
I mean, even Alex, come on, man.
Exactly.
I was looking at Alski for 145. I was like, you're not 145. But he fought up at middleweight.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Alex is a good example that we fight in the same weight category, but he walks around so much heavier than me, and he's very strong and stuff for that weight, So, yeah.
So going back to your last loss, that was 3 fights ago, and I began watching the fight, and you had your jaw broken. I mean, a minute into the fight. Describe that experience of being, really critically injured and continuing through to pretty much the end of the second round, right?
Yeah, until the end of the second, yeah.
Okay. And then the fight was stopped in between rounds.
The doctor stopped the fight in between rounds once he'd seen the damage to my jaw.
So to describe that experience, the fight begins. What did the guy hit you with?
It was a crazy experience. It was an uppercut actually that broke my jaw. It was funny really because he landed the uppercut clean, but it didn't really shake me up too much. It didn't feel like that hard a shot. And just after that, I pushed him into the cage. And at first I thought I'd knocked one of my teeth out. He'd knocked one of my teeth out. I could feel a lot of blood in my mouth, and I felt like with my tongue I could feel a sharp object inside my mouth. So as I pushed him up to the cage, I was like, he's knocked my tooth out, right? I'm gonna get him back for that.
Yeah. If only it was just that, right?
Exactly. But then as the round went on,
because you look like you got all your chiclets right now, dude.
Yeah,
they're all there, man.
They're all there. Yeah, I have. Luckily, I didn't lose a tooth, surprisingly, to be honest. But yeah, as the first round went on, the amount of blood and the feeling in my mouth, I was like, that's not. I think he's broke my jaw. I was pretty sure of that.
What is it about a broken jaw that causes blood to pour into the mouth?
I'm not sure, but there was a hell of a lot. There was a hell of a lot of it. I'm not sure, and also because I didn't want to show how badly hurt I was.
Yeah,
I was swallowing a lot of that blood because I didn't want anyone to see the blood.
Yeah, because I guess you could have just started spitting that out, and then they would have even stopped the fight because of that.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe I should have spat it in his eyes and then.
You totally should have.
Yes, but yeah, I was conscious of swallowing that blood, which was a bit.
Yeah, that must have been uncomfortable.
Yes.
Now, I was privy to seeing an image of you after that fight in the hospital, and I need you to pass me that so I can post it on the blog, because I mean when I saw the picture, you looked like a 145 version of Bigfoot Silva, dude. Your face looks like a shoe. I mean, it looks like it's crazy. It's just an extension of your jaw. I mean, you look deformed. How quickly did that swelling kick in?
The swelling from the picture was actually the day after the surgery, or a few hours after the surgery, maybe, I think.
Did the surgery happen the same day?
The surgery happened in the morning, because it was like late Saturday night by the time I got to the hospital. They'd wired my jaw back in place just temporarily, and then I think the surgery was like 10, 11 o'clock that morning, so I was quite lucky that I wasn't waiting around too long. But obviously they had to put me to sleep and do what they needed to do and put my jaw back in place. and the swelling from it was crazy. Like you said from the picture, it was my face completely ballooned up. It was very painful and uncomfortable. And
what's the recovery time on surgery on a jaw like that?
Yeah, I mean, the recovery for me to be back sparring again was probably a good 6 months, which is a long time. But the worst thing, it wasn't really the pain in the fight or anything. It was the 4 weeks after that. I was eating through a straw. If it didn't fit through a straw, I wasn't eating it. I lost a lot of weight, and it was just not a great time. Especially, I'm just sat around watching the guys in my weight category fight, and guys I know I can beat do well and stuff. It was it wasn't.
It sounds like a major setback. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some pretty brutal injuries myself. We were talking about this before the podcast. You talk about atrophy. I hit 13 trees skiing and snapped my right femur clean in half. It slipped up my leg 6 centimeters. I was 11 years old. I ended up with my leg bent up against a tree, and I had to straighten it out on the spot. Ridiculously defined the word pain for me at that point. Then what did I have? I think I had 6 weeks in traction. They basically put a weight at the end of your leg to pull the bone naturally back into position. Then they do surgery, and then I had a body cast that went from the bottom of my right heel all the way up my leg, all the way up to the top of my chest. And while I had that cast on, I fell down a flight of steps like a fucking domino, like literally head over heels with my dad standing right beside me. So I'm just going cling, clong, clong down a flight of steps and spraying the foot on the same leg.
Oh, no.
And I was like, how, at the age of 11, what could I have possibly done to have deserved this? So it was a horrendous period of my life. But it's, kudos to the doctors who fixed me up, because my legs are perfectly equal. I have no, there's no disparity between the length of my legs. My posture's fine. My balance is fine. So I've been a victim of broken bones, but I've had no concussions, never passed out. I mean, would you put this injury up there with the biggest ones? I know your next fight is now off due to an injury to your elbow. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So are you dealing with that now?
Yeah, I mean, but that's nowhere near as serious as the jaw.
Okay.
The jaw, like I say, how long it took to get back. It was gonna be, especially I get punched in the face for a living. It's gonna take a long time before I'm allowed to that to happen again. But yeah, I am unfortunately out of my next fight as well with an injury that I sustained training.
When was your last fight?
I don't know the exact date. Maybe September last year. September, I think. I had 2 fights.
Yeah, correct. September. So you've been what's that? October, November, December, January, February. So you've been active almost 6 months. Are you cool with that, or how active do you like to keep?
Well, I've always been pretty active, even when I first started fighting as an amateur, and I believe that that's a good way to do it. I like to stay active. I like to stay in the gym, and that's when I work best and improve the most, I believe. Obviously, it's this fight was actually, I think it's next weekend, maybe the weekend after. It was scheduled.
Yeah, so for March 14th, HFS in Australia.
Exactly. So I after those 2 fights that I had back in the UK, I came out here.
Yep.
And really just settled in over the first couple of months training. But I was also here with my girlfriend, and we were, enjoying Thailand as well. And then I wanted to book a fight for after the New Year. That was always the plan. Roger Ware to help me out. He sent the emails out, and we got a really good fight booked that I was happy with. Got Christmas and New Year out of the way, and it was full steam ahead. The training was going fantastic. I was loving being out here and the training I was receiving, and I felt like I was really preparing well for the fight. And then just an accident in training. I got injured.
What did you do? You dislocated your elbow?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
just a bit of a freak accident.
Exactly. Yeah. Just an accident. Fell on it funny. Yeah. Not much more to say about it really. It's
Them's the breaks.
No pun intended. It's a big setback. As far as I was really looking forward to that fight, and also that was going to be my first international fight. I was looking forward to the experience, flying to Melbourne, and the opponent.
Dealing with a different time zone, dealing with the fight, because that's a reality of the sport as well.
Oh, exactly. I was looking forward to all that sort of stuff. The opponent as well is super legitimate. He's
17-4.
17-4 Brazilian BJJ black belt from Jose Aldo's camp.
Okay, Rodolfo Marquez Diniz.
That's right.
Is that how you pronounce it? Diniz?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he's a very tough. He's fought all over. He's fought in Pride. In Dream. He fought in Dream, and he's been around the block. So I was really looking forward to that fight.
So I mean, you get injured like this, your fight gets postponed or actually cancelled. How do you stay motivated? What do you do to just stay positive and keep the hustle going?
I think it was good that because I was training so hard and I was really focused on the fight. I wasn't in the mood for relaxing and eating and all that sort of stuff. I was in training mode. So as soon as I got a chance, I was back working around the injury and doing exactly what I could. But being out here as well, it's easy to stay motivated because everybody I know is training. Nobody's out doing stupid stuff they shouldn't be doing, drinking and whatever. All my friends here are training really hard. So I think that helps me stay motivated for it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about coming out here too. I spent a lot of time out here last year, and I've been out here for another month. It's an environment that promotes healthy living, that promotes fitness, that promotes just living good. And it's great to see that there's such a support system with the other people that are out here. That if you start eating, drinking, whatever, they're gonna be like, yo, dude.
Exactly, yeah.
That's not doing you any favors, right?
That's right, yeah. So it's been quite easy really to stay motivated and taking my rehabilitation very seriously and doing the exercises all the time. Just been for a physio session today actually.
Okay.
And just training around it. I'm actually in really good shape considering I had to pull out the fight with injury.
So word around the blog is a lot of people call you the human UFC Wikipedia. I kind of get that too, where people are like, dude, even though like some other people's interest in MMA has kind of gone down, they feel it's a little oversaturated, that there's too many people that, in the sport that are at the highest levels and you don't know who they are, and they don't have Wikipedia pages, etc. like that. Describe your appreciation as a fan of MMA.
I mean, I'm a huge fan. I mean, yeah, I'm a bit of a geek, I suppose. I won't miss an event, especially being out here is great because the time makes it a lot easier. I get to watch live events instead of staying up until stupid o'clock because that's back home. It's like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. The fights are on.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to live out on the west coast of Canada, in Vancouver and in Los Angeles. So there, a pay-per-view will start at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Then already, if you go to say New York, it's already 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Main event kicks in at like 1 in the morning or midnight. Get over to Europe, it's just impossible. Unless you're a night owl, you're not watching fights at 4 and 5 in the morning. You're waking up in the morning, then you got to avoid social media, and I can't even look at my phone because people are like, yo, did you see what happened between fighter A and fighter B? And I'm like, I can't even look at my text messages. I can't go on Facebook. I can't go on any social media. I can't turn on the news. And then you got to find a way to get it. I don't know if you're familiar with UFC Fight Pass. I use that a lot. That's really cool too. As long as you've got good Wi-Fi, which isn't always the case, unfortunately, here in Thailand. But you can stream everything, including the pay-per-views and all of it. If you're subscribed to it, you can get all of the event except for the pay-per-views for free, which is great. But then, once you get to Thailand, basically the events start at 7 or 8 in the morning. Yeah. So it's it's not everybody exactly wants to get up on Sunday at that time, but I'm like you, man. It's I'm up at 6, ready to rock and roll for the first fights on the prelims, and sitting down at 8 for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Like I say, I don't mind getting up a bit earlier. It's better than getting up in the middle of the night at home. Just get up, eat some breakfast, and enjoy the fights. Yeah. But I'm a big UFC fan. I won't miss an event. A big MMA fan in general.
So who are some of the fighters right now that get your blood boiling? Who are some of the guys that you really like to see compete?
Frankie Edgar is probably one of my favourite at the moment.
Always.
I mean, I think anyone that watches him has got to agree with that. He's non-stop and he's got the heart of a lion, so. And
I like how of late he's been finishing dudes and finishing them late. Like when he knocked out Gray Maynard late, that was just unbelievable.
That was
crazy. And to finish Cub Swanson late, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, like you say, unreal, some of those performances, especially against Maynard when he got badly hurt in the first round. And then.
So what do you think of Edgar's upcoming fight against Faber?
I think it's a bit of a weird one. It's I wasn't expecting that fight, but I think the way the featherweight division is at the moment, they sort of like needed to find something for Edgar. They pushed McGregor to get the shot against Aldo, and Edgar's obviously right up there in the title picture.
Because they're also doing Mendes against
Lamas. Exactly, yeah. So that's tied them all up. Yeah. There's nobody else really for Edgar. Obviously, as we mentioned, he just beat Swanson, and I don't see any other featherweights at the moment challenging him. To be honest,
I think all the kudos to Edgar for taking this fight. It's really, I mean, at this stage, Faber is not a contender at that weight class. He's been fighting at bantamweight for years now.
Yeah.
And Faber's always a dangerous fight. He never loses non-title fights, and this is a non-title fight. So I think Edgar has a lot to lose, but he does have a lot to win if he can whoop Uriah's ass, which is not really evident. Besides Dominic Cruz and Jose Aldo, no one's really done that.
No. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation, but he obviously didn't want to sit out on the sidelines, and he's a fighter at heart. He got offered a fight. He'll be there. And
I find it similar to when Chuck Liddell took that fight against Babalu. He was scheduled to get a title fight against Tito.
That's right.
And Tito was then put up against Ken Shamrock. Yeah. And Chuck didn't need to take that fight. He was on the books for to fight the winner of that. And he said, "Fuck it, let's stay busy." And I believe that's the one. Is it the one where he landed the kick? Like he just kicked Babalu right in the mouth, dropping down.
They fought twice. They're going back a while now. Going back to them videotape days we were talking about.
It was that first one, though.
I think the first one is when he kicked him.
The first one was when he kicked him, because then he TKO'd him. As well, because when Babalu went on a decent run to actually get a title fight against Chuck when he had the belt. Yeah, those are old fights, dude. That's all in the mid-40s of the UFC.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, so Edgar. Who else?
Any other guys like that? I prefer watching the lighter weight guys. I quite like Gilbert Melendez, one of my favourites. He's another got the gas tank on him and just keeps coming forward, and a bit of a brawler as well. I like. Absolutely. I like. He lays it on the line. That whoever he's fighting, you're gonna get to see a entertaining fight.
One of my favorite fights of all time happens to include Gilbert Melendez, and it's a very underrated one, when he fought Josh Thompson for the second time in Strikeforce, and it went 5 rounds. All other fights have gone 5 rounds, and that second fight, if you haven't seen it, it is one of the most blistering barn burners ever. To me, it's hands down the best 25-minute 5-round title fight in MMA history. At least at the lighter weight classes, because then you can start talking about John Jones and Gustafsson, and there's some other ones in there. But the heart displayed by Josh Thompson in that fight, again, another one of my favorite fighters, unfriggin' believable. He was getting smashed from pillar to post by Gilbert. That was really one of those fights where Gilbert, really in the United States, where he just poured it on and absolutely put on a clinic. Yeah. I thought he lost the third fight, though. And I thought the judges, they robbed Thompson in their third match in Strikeforce.
Yeah, they've had some really good fights, like you say, 3 fights, all going the distance. They've 15 rounds in there against each other. It's crazy.
Such great competitors, both those guys. Love them.
It's just a shame. It got a bit of publicity, but probably not as much as it would have done. That probably would be considered one of the best fights if it had taken place on a UFC event.
And it was on a really, under-promoted Strikeforce card. And if you guys listening to this, check out Gilbert Melendez versus Josh Thompson 2 in Strikeforce. Fantastic, classic title fight.
I've got another one that if you haven't seen, what a lot of people underrated title fight was Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler, the first one in Bellator. Yeah. That was absolutely unreal. That's one of my favourite MMA fights in history, but...
Yeah, Chandler subbed him in that one.
That's right.
Knocked him around, battered him, dropped him. They dropped each other 3-4 times. It was a video game.
Exactly.
It was a video game fight. Awesome.
And it was actually the end of the third where Alvarez looked like he was going to win. He was pouring it on Chandler and really hurting him. And it was like literally a minute later in the 4th round that Chandler turned it around and got the submission. So that's
so bizarre. We talk about injuries, and you look at what's happened, sort of the way Michael Chandler's deteriorated in recent fights. I don't know if you saw his last fight. He was fighting Will Brooks for the second time for the lightweight title in Bellator. And he got smashed so hard at one point, he started just walking in a different direction and kind of like looking out at the crowd, almost like as if he'd seen a ghost.
Yeah.
And Will Brooks kind of ran up on him thinking he was just, rocked. And he certainly was, and then he hit him again, and Chandler just he was walking around like a zombie. I mean, What do you think about that? I think Chandler's an incredible competitor, but it seems like he's taken one too many shots.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's definitely been in the wars, even the fights that he's won. He fought Alvarez twice.
Alvarez is no joke.
Alvarez is a heavy puncher, exactly. Yeah, he's one of the most underrated lightweights out there. Yep. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if he needs to retire, but that's always going to be a hard thing to bring up. And especially I feel a bit sorry for the guys like that because he's had really big fights, but he's not that well known.
Yeah, he's had big fights, great performances, but walking down the street, does anybody know who Michael Chandler is?
That's what I mean, yeah. You know? How big's his bank account compared to some of the lightweights in the UFC?
Yep.
So yeah, I can feel for him on that situation.
So if we fall back then to Gilbert Melendez coming up against Eddie Alvarez, who you got in that one?
That's going to be a great fight because they're both very similar. They both like to use their hands more. Neither of them kick very often.
And it's a bit of a grudge match too. They've been talking shit about each other since Eddie was the champ in Bellator, Gilbert was the champ in Strikeforce.
They're trying to make it happen then.
Personally, I'd like to see Eddie take it. I think Eddie deserves. He got kind of sidetracked in contract negotiations between Bellator and the UFC. He kind of sat out for a couple of years. I'm a big fan of his. If you haven't seen his fights in Dream, they're awesome. That fight against Joachim Hansen. That's an absolute classic as well. Similar to the Chandler Alvarez fight. Both guys getting dropped numerous times. Check that one out. Joachim Hansen against Eddie Alvarez in Dream. But I think Melendez, he's had some belts. The Strikeforce title I think is more prestigious than the Bellator one. So I'd like to see Eddie get a good run at the 155 strap in the UFC.
I like Alvarez, but I'm going with Gilbert, and I'd personally prefer to see Gilbert win it. I think as well he had such a good fight against Ben Henderson, but I didn't watch it from a judge's point of view, but it was very, very close to it. Things could be a lot different for him if he'd have nicked that title. And he's always fun to watch. So I'm going to go Melendez.
It's impressive to see how quickly Pettis put it on him.
That was unreal. I actually had money on Melendez in that fight.
Yep.
And he started okay, exactly what he needed to do, and keep the pressure on him and stay in his face, but Pettis on the back foot was just so accurate. It was absolutely unreal, and that was. I was a Pettis believer, but I wasn't sure how long he was going to hold the title for and stuff like that. But even on the counter attack, he was just pinpointing them punches on Melendez's chin, and he was just walking into him every time. And yeah, he's the next level when it comes to striking.
Yeah, I think Pettis is something special. I don't know if he's at the level of dominance in his division that say Ronda Rousey is, but Ronda Rousey, pardon me. But he's looking pretty good, and I think he's going to make short work out of Rafael Dos Anjos in his next fight.
I like Dos Anjos. I've got a thing for Dos Anjos because he broke his jaw, similar,
he did.
And
Clay
also
Guida,
he broke his jaw against Clay Guida, and since then he's been on a tear. He's like a beast.
He has.
So I'm sort of like, I'm that guy, I'm going to break my jaw and I'm going to do the same. So I have a bit of a soft spot for Dos Anjos, but I think Pettis is going to be too much for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I shouldn't say I think he's going to tool him. He's not going to tool him, but he's going to win that fight.
I believe so as well, yeah.
But RDA is a great example of fighters, who kind of came in a little bit soft into the UFC. Remember, he got pasted by Jeremy Stevens with that Street Fighter uppercut from hell, from the middle of the cage. Epic. But yeah, he's really come into himself as a fighter. What do you think? So what sort of mental changes do you think he would have made, between those fights to gain that confidence and those boosts in performance?
I mean, because I knew he'd broke his jaw, I actually looked into it a little bit further, and in an interview I've read with him, he actually believes he's a much better fighter since he broke his jaw. He reckons that he's not been rocked in training since. He's really, he thinks it's helped his chin, which is interesting. And also, I don't know, he's just obviously had a similar thing to me. He sat out for a long time and was probably...
Worked on different aspects.
Pardon?
You just worked on different aspects.
That's it, yeah. And, so... He's done well, so like I say, I've got a soft spot for him because he's come back from a broken jaw and now he's number one contender and been doing awesome. So
yeah, I like to see when guys like that, they come in with a certain rep, they get a couple wins, they take a couple bad losses, and you begin to think that I don't know, I sort of compare it to, say, a guy like, like Thiago Tavares.
Yeah.
Remember when he came to UFC, he looked like a mini Vitor Belfort, and he was rocking everybody, submitting everybody, great fighter, and then kind of is just there and sitting in the middle, almost like Gleison Tebow, wins some, loses a bad one, wins some. And it's nice to see that RDA didn't fall into that slump and that he's managed to really, really, bolster his wins. He got a KO over Benson Henderson. How does Rafael dos Anjos knock out Ben Henderson, but then Brandon Thatch doesn't?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as MMA math.
Yeah,
like, this guy beats that guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really is styles make fights, and it's just circumstantial.
It's very
there's so much
circumstantial
circumstance.
as well, yeah, like you say, styles make fights and just circumstance. It was just, perfectly timed punch, and it's what did the damage on Henderson. Thatch looked a lot bigger and was stalking him down, but didn't hurt him anywhere near the same. So
absolutely.
And Henderson, what a beast for winning that fight. I was
in such great fashion. Whoa. I love how he had him down. He won it in the 4th round.
That's right.
He had him down the 3rd, and he was working his back, and it kind of looked like he wasn't really working it, but you can tell that he was doing the analysis, and then he got him down next round, and I was the first one applauding and screaming at Bravo at the TV.
Yeah.
So up until then, I was kind of, I was a little turned off by Henderson in the UFC, winning a ton of decisions, those controversial decisions too against, you mentioned Gilbert Melendez. Where at the end of the fight, he's kind of like, popping the toothpick out and being like, yeah, baby, like really acting like, of course I won. It's like, it was close, dude. It was close. I think there was even a couple splits in there. So, but yeah, then he got robbed by the judges against Cerrone in their 3rd fight. So I felt sorry for him at that point. He takes a fight 2 weeks later, moves up a weight class.
Against the biggest welterweight ever.
Yeah, in the division.
Oh my God, like the size difference. Henderson's known as like a big 155.
Yep.
He looked no different than he did at 170. He looked no different than he did at 155. And Thatch, he was Jesus.
You looked at it was funny. I was mentioning that as I watched the fight, and you saw the camera from different angles, and sort of from the back, it was kind of like, okay, this seems fine, and then you see the shots from the side, and you're like, no, this isn't right.
This is not fair. This is It was crazy. So what a beast! It looked like he was going to lose that fight. He was getting backed up a lot, and anything he threw was not slowing Thatch down at all. He was trying to kick, he was trying to punch, but he just looked too small when Thatch was walking through it and walking him down. Yep. But fair play to him. What a performance to pull off that one.
Well, the announcers called it. They said he fought a champion's fight, and he did. He went in there, he analyzed, he survived the 1st round. He figured things out, and he found a way to win, and he found a way to win by stoppage, which isn't always his MO, Yeah. So again, really bravo to Henderson, and my interest in seeing him fight is renewed, and it had waned significantly since he'd arrived in the UFC.
Exactly the same for me, mate. Like you say, I'm interested to see his next move now. I'd like to see him back at 155, to be honest.
So too. Yeah.
But I don't know what they're going to do. I think he called Rory McDonald out after the fight. I don't think that's a good fight for him, but I'd like to see him at 155, and I'm definitely, after that performance, got more interested in seeing him fight his next fight.
Well, listen, Shane, this is awesome. I think you and I could probably sit here and do this for hours. So, I'm going to be around for a couple more months. I know you're going to be you're heading back to England for a bit.
That's right, but I'm not going to be home for long. I head back to England on the 14th.
Okay.
I'm just going to be there 2 or 3 weeks, just see everyone I've not seen for a little bit. A couple of things to do.
Okay.
And then I'm going to head back out here, and hopefully the body's healthy, and I want to book a fight, and
Well, the 14th, there's a Pettis versus Dos Anjos. So before you go, let's try to do a preview of that event together.
Okay,
and
then
you can watch it over there, and we can touch base when you get back. Awesome. How can people follow you on social media, Shay?
I've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the address for all of them is at Shay Walsh MMA.
Okay.
So easy to find. Follow me.
Excellent. Well, I had a blast. It's great to talk with another person who can just, flap their gums about fighters and stats and history without opening up the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do this again real soon, buddy. I had a great time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care, man.
All right. See ya.
This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, with my guest, pro MMA fighter Shay Walsh, fighting out of the UK. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
On my face, behind my back, they talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA. Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.